Welcome everyone to my podcast. My name is Mareike and I love talking with people who are as passionate about long distance hiking as I am. Generally, this podcast is in German, but sometimes I invite a guest to the podcast who does not speak German. And to everyone who don't normally listen to a German-speaking long-distance hiking podcast, welcome to my show. In German, it is called Wanderwach und Kaffee, which means something along the lines of being awake for hiking and coffee. I'm a vivid long-distance hiker myself and hiked many long-distance trails around the world. Well, in the true traveler spirit of my episode's guest, I'm recording the intro here while I am out traveling myself. I boarded the Trans-Canadian train yesterday in Vancouver at Canada's west coast, and yes, I will go all the way to Toronto, and there I will switch trains and continue on almost all the way to Halifax on the east coast. That's quite a lot of nights in a recliner seat or on the floor here in economy class. But oh well, it's all about the journey, right? But then we will head up to Newfoundland Island to hike the roughly 350 kilometer long East Coast Trail. Well, that's a piece of cake compared to what my guest created. So Jan Bakker is my guest today, and he's not just an adventurous spirit and hiker, but also the person behind the Pamir Trail that crosses Tajikistan. I'm happy to have him on the show today for many reasons. Well, first of all, I'm very curious about the Pamir Trail, obviously, and about what it takes to create a trail in Central Asia. But also I'm looking forward to hear more about Jan's story, as he is truly a very experienced traveler and outdoors person himself. And with this, he's one of those people who feel comfortable when the going gets tougher. You will hear. So now enjoy the conversation. So, hello and welcome to Wanderwach and Kaffee, Jan.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes, so I'm very happy to have you on the show. Generally, in my podcast, I talk with fellow long-distance hikers and we share information about trails and we also go into the nitpicky psychological details of setting out on such an endeavor like hiking a long-distance trail and live on trails for weeks or months at a time. But whenever possible, I also love to talk to people who actually founded a long-distance trail. So I already had the founder of Germany's long-distance trail, North-South Trail, on the show. So Soulboy, many greetings to Germany. And just recently, I talked to Julian Gabor, who is one of the team who takes care of Romania's Via Transylvanica, which is also a very interesting and fascinating new trail. So, Jan, to be honest, I don't even know where to begin. After I reached out to you, because you are the founder or creator of the new Pamir Trail, and I would love to learn more about the trail, but I also realized that you are not just engaged with the Pamir Trail in Tajikistan, but you seem to be all over the place yourself. But at this point, I'd love to hand over to you, and I love to ask you the classical first question for all my guests who ever come to my podcast. Could you please introduce yourself? So who are you? Where are you? And what are you doing when you're not sitting in a Zoom call with me and talk about the Pamir Trail?
Yeah, great. So my name is Jan Bakker. I'm from the Netherlands originally, possibly the least mountainous country in the world.
True.
So it's always the irony that you find the Dutchies in the mountains, and I'm one of those. But I haven't been living in the Netherlands for 16 years now. So I currently live in Uganda with my family. And as you know, we're kind of like a traveling circus. Before we lived in Lebanon, we've lived in Tunisia. So we live a little bit of an international life, I would say. Home is actually Scotland rather than Netherlands. So my wife is Scottish, and we have a house in the northwest near Torridon. So for the people who love hiking in Scotland, they must know Torridon because it's on the Cape Wrath Trail, and it's an amazing part of the world, and it's world-class hiking. We can actually also see Skye from our house, so Isle of Skye, And obviously, there's a lot to do there as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, and what are you doing when you're not creating trails? And what are you doing in Uganda? As you were saying, you live in Uganda right now.
So we're here for my wife's job, basically. She works in international development. Currently, she's working on a project. It's called Restore Africa. So essentially, it's planting lots of trees throughout Uganda. And but whenever we choose a destination, we choose a place where I can do stuff as well. I need mountains or something to do outdoors. I live in Kampala, so it's actually quite far from the mountains. The Rwenzori Mountains in the west are about 7-hour drive away, and then you've got Mount Elgon, which is 5 hours away in a different direction towards the east. So, so in terms of hiking, it's a bit challenging here to go for a weekly hike. But I cycle a lot here, so I have a gravel bike, and I take that one out twice a week just to stay fit and also to explore the countryside. So, but what I do normally is, I work for a British company called 360 Expeditions. So I'm a freelancer. I write content for them. I develop some travel products. The first one is, of course, Tajikistan that I developed for them. So, and then Pamir Trail is getting busier. So quite a lot of people reach out for information. We try to organize some and promote some tours, some trekking trips on the Pamir Trail. So the most beautiful parts. That's going quite well. So we work with local partners. And and I just started a pack raft company, I think. I bought 10 pack rafts.
Wow.
From Germany. Amphibio is the brand. And because there's a lot of really interesting waterways here that doesn't necessarily have crocodiles or hippos. So it's a really, I think pack rafting is really the future. Also for hiking, it opens up areas that you normally wouldn't go to because they're inaccessible. And one boat weighs 1.5 kilos. So, that's really lightweight. And
that's nothing.
It's nothing. Yeah. So it's, I think, I'm super interested in that, just to explore different areas, and the combination of hiking and paddling is just amazing. So that keeps me going in Uganda these days.
Oh, that sounds great, especially the combination of doing cycling, doing hiking, and also creating pack rafts and combining hiking and pack rafting. I think this is a really prosperous area, and there's going to be a lot of demand, because I also know a lot of people in the hiking community that do long distance hikes whenever they can, but also they go out exploring with a pack raft and see how far they can get and how far they can go. But before we actually talk about the Pamir Trail, I'm always also interested in how people get into hiking and how people started their, let's call it like their outdoor career, or how they started to going outdoors. So how was it with you? How did you get into hiking?
That's a funny one. In the late 90s, I did an internship in Poland, and we had some friends scattered around. So we were in the West. We had a friend in Krakow. We had a friend in Warsaw. And when we went to Krakow, we were quite close to the Tatra Mountains. And I somehow have always been fascinated by mountains. When I was young, I got a jigsaw puzzle from Switzerland, with the beautiful mountains in the background. And that already kind of, fascinated me. And then I thought, okay, I need to go back here. So in 1999, I did my first hike on tennis shoes in the snow. It was in April. I had no idea. It was misty. I had no map. I had no compass. I just went up and, of course, completely soaked. I just followed the cable, went to the summit of a mountain, and I went back. And, I mean, if I would do it now, it would be a miserable experience. But at the time, I loved it, It was like, wow, you could just go. And timing was all wrong, but I was instantly hooked. So that was my first experience. And then the next year, pretty similar experience. I always had a love for Scotland already at the time. And so same story. I went to Scotland. I didn't have like proper hiking boots, but I just went up. We went to Glencoe. Mountains are pretty steep there. So I just went up, I couldn't find a trail. It was also misty, rainy, miserable weather, and I just went up until I couldn't go anymore. And I thought, okay, maybe this gets a bit dicey. So I went down, and so I tried it, but I kind of failed. And then of course, but I still, I loved it. I was hooked since. So I bought the hiking boots after that, and I did my first sort of first serious trek in Morocco in 2001. In the Toubkal area, so that's when it all started, late 90s, early 2000s, really.
And funny enough, my hiking career, if you want to put it like this, started actually at home in Germany, because I grew up in the Thuringian forest with all these rolling hills. But the first time I was actually in more alpine area was also in the Tatras. So after the wall came down, my parents put me in the car and we went to Slovakia and Poland. And I also was wearing these tennis shoes when we were hiking up these mountains. So I kind of had to really, really smile when you were sharing the story, how you got into hiking. Still, I'm a little bit more curious, because hiking in the Tatras is one thing. And then you said you went to Morocco and you hiked in Morocco. It already seems like you took the little bit more adventurous path than many other hikers do. Because, I mean, I talk to a lot of people who do hike, and I hear a lot of stories how they started hiking. And many people started hiking like in the Alps, or they went to Scandinavia. But it sounds like you took the more adventurous path. How come? What is it that is so appealing to you to go a little bit off the beaten track? And also, you were mentioning, because we exchanged some emails before we actually meet today, and you were mentioning that you're leading also expeditions into the mountains in Iraq. So you definitely go off the beaten track. So how come?
At the time, I was on a full winter surfing in Morocco. So basically, my trip was a surfing trip. I was on the coast, quite close to Agadir, Taghazout. The waves were not that good, and I was not feeling. I don't know. The surfing didn't go very well, so I thought, okay, I need a trip. I need to do something. And I had this guidebook, or I think it was Rough Guides or something like that. And it described Marrakesh, and it described the Atlas Mountains, and I thought, wow, that's cool, And I did bring my hiking boots already, so I thought, okay, let's give it a go. So there was this hike that was described. It was a 3-day hike. It started in Seti Fatma, went over a pass, and then ended in Imlil. I knew nothing I knew nothing really. I mean, I just took a shared taxi to the start of the trail. Started hiking. I didn't break in my boots, so my heels were completely covered in blood from the blisters that I developed. It was in winter, minus 8, I think. I stayed at this guest house underneath 5 blankets, and then I went up the pass. And I thought, why is this so hard? The pass was 3,300 meters, and I had no idea that it's just just less oxygen in the air, high altitude. It was thin air. But the weather was great. I was lucky with that, I guess. And I just crossed the pass through the snow. Stayed in another. It was a little mountain hut, I think, and then ended in Imlil, and that was so satisfying. I had no real map. I mean, it was just a description in Rough Guides, but it's just the unknown is it really sparks like strong curiosity. What's out there, and that's why I guess there were no waymarks or anything. It was just you just go and see where we end, really. So and it ended well. I mean, I was really hooked. Although surfing was still number one for me, but it really that really triggered something for the future, I think. So and this was in 2001. So I didn't start guiding until 2005. So it was quite a gap.
Oh, okay.
It was quite a gap between. It took a while because surfing was really that was my first love, and I just wanted to, everywhere I went, like Indonesia and South Africa, and was all based on surfing, and then I did some hikes along the way. But hiking was not yet the number one thing to do for me. Not my central theme for traveling, really. So that started basically in 2004, and my sister was quite instrumental in that, because I was traveling full time. I would come back, work a little bit, and then just go traveling again. So basically, I worked just to fund my travels, and the jobs were quite boring. I would work for a bank or an insurance company just to make money, and the pay was all right, but of course the job is miserable. So my sister worked for an outdoor company in the Netherlands, but they worked a lot in Belgium, because of course we have no flowing rivers and rock and anything. So she said, why not come do the training and come work with us? So you have a really cool job to come back to, it's good pay, and you're outside all the time. So I did the training, and I became an outdoor instructor. So I would basically take people rock climbing, mountain biking, kayaking. And simultaneously, I also applied to become a tour leader with a Dutch company. And that was normal tours, but already had sort of on my agenda. They did do stuff in Ladakh, like trekking expeditions.
Oh, yeah.
But I needed my foot in the door. So what I did was I did their training as well. I applied, and then I got the opportunity to go to Central America to guide a small group. And of course I said yes, because then it's all about getting your foot in the door, especially in these kind of jobs. And then I already had in mind, okay, next year they've got a trip to Ladakh, from Manali, hiking to the Baralachalais, I think, at 5,000 meters. So fantastic trek. I'm going to talk my way into that as well. And I got, in the meantime, I got more experience. I did lots of stuff myself. I went to Wales, Norway, and that year I planned a big trip to India. The way I bluffed my way into that trip to become the leader, I said, I'm going overland to India, so you don't have to pay a flight for me. So basically, if you pay my visas, that would be great. So then it saves you money, and that's what I did. I flew to Istanbul, went overland to India via Iran and Pakistan, climbed Damavand on the way. Also,
nice.
Quite a story. I just I didn't plan anything. I just went up. It was crazy fast. I went with these Iranian guys who were very experienced and also well acclimatized. So I did it in 2.5 days, up and down. It was quite mad. But I did quite well. Apart from that, I had a frost nip on my right toe because my boots got wet inside and it was really cold up. So my toe was a bit black. That was not amazing, but also a learning experience, and it went all it kind of recovered. So then I went to India. I did a little trek myself, and I went up Stokkangri, a 6,000 meter peak, and then I received my my clients for my very first guiding trip in the mountains. So yeah.
Wow. Whenever you mentioned Ladakh, I've been to Ladakh a couple of years ago, and I did this crossing from Keelong to Lamayuro, which was fantastic. So yeah, I totally feel you when you're saying, this is like what sparks everything and the unknown and curiosity. But now let's travel to Tajikistan and let's talk about the Pamir Trail a little bit. So I'm not sure where I heard about the Pamir Trail first. I think if I remember correctly, it might have caught my eye on Instagram or social media somewhere, and I kind of put it on my already very long wish list for trails. So I did some hiking in Kyrgyzstan many years ago, and Central Asia is, I think, a fantastic place to go for hiking because it's mountainous, it's remote, it's rough and culturally interesting. And the Pamir Trail landed on my list. So yeah, I chatted with a person who was also a guest in the podcast, Gerald Klamer. And Gerald Klamer is one of these hikers who, who regularly go off the beaten path and who explore new places and remote places. And right now he's trekking through South America and he's doing some crazy stuff there. Well, the trail came up in our conversation, and this is when I started to take a closer look into it. And this is when I got the idea, hey, I need to talk to the founder, to you, Jan, about this trail. So, well, the Pamir Trail, could you please share some details about the trail? So, for example, where actually is it? How long is it? And so on. Whatever comes to mind. We need some facts and figures about the trail.
Yeah, absolutely. So we managed to connect the whole trail last year in 2024. Also with the help of two ladies from Czech Republic who, they said, okay, we want to hike the whole thing. I said, well, it's not finished yet, but they did it anyways, which was great because they also did some exploratory stuff for us to kind of put everything together. So the length of the trail is 1,300 kilometers with roughly 65,000 meters of vertical ascent. So it's quite hard. Most of the trail is very remote. So if you look at Tajikistan, it's 93% mountainous, and there's hardly any roads, like main roads, going through the country. There's only 2 or 3 main roads, and the rest is either dirt track or there's nothing at all. So we've got 9 sections in total, and it runs from the border with Uzbekistan, roughly. Then it skims the border of Kyrgyzstan in the north, and then it bends south towards the border of Afghanistan. So it's really sort of a border-to-border trail. With lots of passes. I looked it up. I think it's 23 passes in total, and the lowest one is 3,300 meters. So most of them are closer to 4,000 meters, and the highest point of the trail and the highest pass is the last one. It's the Vrang Pass, and that's just over 5,000 meters. So you get quite a good opportunity to acclimatize for that one, and then you drop down all the way to the Wakhan corridor, which shares a border with Afghanistan. So so it's remote, but people have done it, so it's doable, and we're working on improving the trail, improving the route. So it's the route, there is one version now, but it might be that we have to change the route because it's a very dynamic trail. Lots of things can happen, like landslides, bridges can wash away. So we kind of continuously look critically at what can we do to make sure the trail is safe enough. Like it's now, of course, it's mountains. You cannot never guarantee safety, but we try to make it as safe as possible. Yeah. And it should not be for mountaineers. It should be for hikers. So that's we're really conscious of, who's going to do it. It should be for hikers. If it's mountaineering, you need ropes. Then it's no go for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you were already mentioning that the route as it is right now was kind of finished in 2024, if I got this correctly. But is it a work in progress, or is it already a trail that is continuous and you can walk from the border of Uzbekistan roughly to the border of Afghanistan?
Yes, it is continuous. We have a route that is continuous. The only thing is there's one section. It's section number 6. It's a very challenging crossing across this sub-range of the Pamirs. It's called the Darvos range. The rivers are extremely big because the rivers drain from the main glaciers in Tajikistan. So you can basically only do it in September. You might be able to do it in August if there's a bit of a cold snap. But September is realistically the earliest you can do the river crossings. It's a lot of volume, and then there's also a glacier that is. If it's dry, it is possible to cross. But if it's not, there's quite a few crevices.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just not safe enough to cross. So that's why we are looking at an alternative route. And the Czech ladies have helped tremendously with that. But that part is still a work in progress. So the difficult part, that's section 6B, is possible, but you need to be a bit lucky with the river levels and whether the glacier is dry.
Mm-hmm.
If so, then it's very doable. But we're looking for a safer route, and also people who are not comfortable on glaciers, they need to be able to kind of get past. So, this year a few friends of the trail are going to explore an alternative and see if we can kind of cross in a different way, but equally interesting, because otherwise nobody wants to walk on the road. Currently, section 6A ends in a place called Calais-Goum, and that's where the Pamir Trail is. Oh, the Pamir Highway, sorry. And that's like a main road. I mean, it's still unsurfaced in some places, but, there's a lot of trucks passing. So it's very unattractive. So we recommend people, if you do that, just kind of try and get a taxi or some form of transport to the next section, the start of section 7, because otherwise, who wants to walk on the road? I don't, for sure.
Well, people who hiked the Te Araroa here in New Zealand are kind of accustomed to road walking. But yeah, who wants to walk on a road? That's absolutely right. And how long is that section that is, as of now, a little bit dangerous whenever the weather is not collaborating?
The section itself is quite long. It's around 200 kilometers, but half of it is fine. Like half of it is a known trail. It's also part of a guidebook that I've written with a French lady on trekking in Tajikistan. So that's a very kind of a common route. It's only like 4 or 5, I think 4 stages that are challenging. So if you have the time, you have enough food and also sort of common sense, is it possible or not, then people can do it, but you need to be an experienced hiker for that part, like a very experienced hiker, and embrace the unknown and the adventurous nature of that part of the Pamir Trail.
And also, when it comes to creating this trail, did you have to literally build parts of the trail, or did you stitch more or less together existing trails? Because I can imagine that Tajikistan, there's a lot of trails for people walking from one village to another, like paths and trails where they kind of bring out their stock. So how did it actually work to put together Pamir Trail?
In 2009, I did my first trip to Tajikistan with my wife. So we did a cycling trip, but we also wanted to do some hiking. And there was literally no information at all. Like there was one map, 1 to 500,000 map with some trails, but of course that's useless if you wanna seriously try those trails. So the Russians mapped, they have mapped this area very well. So there's really good maps, but also they're 30 years old. So it's some trails have disappeared, or it was tough to find good information. I used Google Earth actually to recognize this line in the landscape, and thought, okay, let's go for it, and it would lead to a 6,500 meter mountain called Peak Engels. So we were cycling to a certain place. We hit the trail, hiking just for an overnight, and Marijke, it was amazing. Like this was in no guidebook at all, and this was one of the best hikes I'd ever done. So and I thought, this was really like a eureka moment. I need to do something with this. And basically, what happened then is I said to my wife, I'm going to write a guidebook for Tajikistan because the country deserves it. It's world class. Like it's on par with Nepal and Pakistan. It's like, but nobody knows about it. So I thought, I want to share the love, the instant love I had for the mountains in Tajikistan, and I decided to write a guidebook. in 2010, I went back for 4 months to do research. So I planned to come from Kyrgyzstan and then into Tajikistan. So I wanted to basically focus on the Pamirs. But in Kyrgyzstan, I got caught in in sort of half a civil war. Like, it was really bad. I was in Osh. In the south, and in 2010, and then shootings started in the streets, and buildings on fire, and so I had to be evacuated with a group of travelers back to Bishkek. So that cost me a month of research. And then I went to the north of Tajikistan, and I basically roamed the mountains. And it was, as you said, it's all shepherd paths, so nothing has to be built there. There are places that are pathless. I'm gonna talk about that more probably later. But you can basically just go, and you don't need to bring a shovel or a team of trail builders. Like they have, for example, in the Caucasus, for the Transcaucasian Trail, where they have trail building camps. That's not really necessary in the Pamirs. It's you can find your way, and that's what we did through just exploring and see where shepherd trails would go and how we could stitch them up. So
And you were also mentioning bridges. Like, I was wondering, when I prepared our talk today, I was wondering what is actually the infrastructure, because I can imagine it's a huge contrast to, obviously, trails in the US or in Europe, where you have infrastructure such as, I don't know, bridges, you have roads, you can hitch out to a town to get supplies. Maybe you can even hitch to somewhere where you can take a shower, or some people take you in for spending the night. So how is the infrastructure when you are a hiker in Tajikistan and hike the Pamir Trail? Is there something you need to be aware of? Is it like super remote and there is nothing that you can expect but wilderness and challenges?
So it really differs. It's really different for each section. Some sections are, the infrastructure is quite good. Like the section 1 is in the Fan Mountains. There's quite a lot of people roaming in the Fan Mountains, including locals who need the bridges to get their livestock from one valley to the other.
Oh yeah.
Also, there are homestays there, and it's quite easy to walk out. So, that's a relatively accessible part of the Pamir Trail. Food-wise, it's a bit more challenging, actually, because, you can get sometimes local food in the shops. But a lot of places just simply don't have shops. Even if there's a village, they live quite self-supported. So they don't have any... they don't have anything for sale. Maybe a pack of noodles or dry rice. If you're happy with that, you can probably go a long way. But like quality food, variety, vegetables, it's much harder. There are roads that you can you meet, you basically cross, and then you could go back to, for example, the capital city, Dushanbe. But it's hard. Like the further you go, like section 2 gets a little bit harder already, and then section 3 really goes towards the east. So you're far away from any tarmac road. Like the closest tarmac road at some point is like 150 kilometers or something like that. So
okay.
So that's why resupply is also, we are working now on like sort of a system where there's a manufacturer of freeze-dried food in Tajikistan. So we started to work with them to facilitate that people can, just restock. They also do the drop-offs. So it's not cheap, but because it's really, the nature of the roads, you have to have a 4-wheel drive to basically get anywhere. And it's quite expensive to drop the food loads, but it is possible, It's and if you're willing to carry like a week's worth of food, it's quite manageable. So, but it's not easy. And further south you go, like towards the Pamirs, it's sometimes it's far. It's also of course the lure of things, but you need to plan it really well, and that's what we do. We have a WhatsApp group at the moment.
Oh, okay.
For 2025, where we have some of the tour operators are in it, the manufacturer of freeze-dried food, the people who can provide the logistics. So that's why we try to help people also to hook up and join forces, because if it's a few $100s for a drop-off, of course you want to share it with other hikers as well. So that way we kind of try to get people together. We have got 40 independent hikers at the moment who are intending to do the Pamir Trail.
Wow, is it 14 or 40?
40, yeah.
Wow, that's quite a lot. 40, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the people that we know of that do the Pamir Trail. There's of course the people who don't bother with that and they just go and do it. And then we also have I think 12 people at the moment, 13 people who are doing it commercially. So they basically they reach out to us. We promote a number of trips, and for Section 8 we have 2 groups now going. So it's all kind of growing, and people get they learn about it and they see the website, and the website it could be a bit better, but it does inspire, I think, people. So we are working on getting communicating the information a bit better. So I started integrating Outdoor Active, the app, in it, because the Pro Plus version of Outdoor Active gives me a lot of opportunities to integrate their maps and all that into the website. So but that's still work in progress. I hope to finish before the actual trekking season starts, which is mid-June.
Mid-June, okay. And now I'm curious, these 40 hikers and also these other commercially guided hikers, where are these people from and who are these people? Especially the 40 hikers that are out there independently. I'm very curious about.
Yeah, they're from all over the place. I don't know. I don't really know their nationalities, to be honest. But I know there's there's Germans, Australians, Americans, British people, Dutch people. Yeah, it's a whole mixed bag of nationalities. So not necessarily from one place. The common thing is they're all English speakers. So they do know English. Yeah. Because I can imagine that, for example, there are hikers who have this on the radar that not necessarily speak English or are comfortable writing and communicating in English. So maybe there's more, but the ones that reach out, a whole bunch of nationalities, which is quite exciting.
Nice.
I think.
Yeah, totally exciting. Yeah. And of course, I'm not surprised that also Germans among these hikers, because Germans are hiking everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's briefly come back to infrastructure, because I was also wondering about accommodation. I guess I can imagine camping is not a problem at all in Tajikistan in the mountains, because it's vast mountains, it's enough space to pitch your tent. But on the other hand, I also have trails in mind that were created to also bring people into remote villages and also bring, a little bit of money so that they can buy stuff and maybe stay in some homestays and, get cared of by the locals. So what is it, or how to plan accommodation while being on Pamir Trail?
Yeah, so you should always, for every section, you need a tent. I mean, and as you said, wild camping is permitted in almost every place. Of course, you won't pitch your tent in somebody's backyard, but that's just common sense. Yeah. But there's so much space, you can camp anywhere. But it's quite an experience also to stay in the homestay. So on most of the sections, well, most of the early section, like section 1 and 2 and 3, you can stay in homestays sometimes, usually in the lower parts of the valleys. And then as you go up, it gets more remote and there's nothing much, so you just camp. Usually you don't need to reserve them, so you can just rock up and there will be a space for you. And if there isn't, the Tajik people, they are super welcoming. So, they will accommodate you no matter what. And if it's with their neighbor or if you really feel the need that you need to kind of have a roof above your head, it is possible. I've been accommodated quite a lot of times in unofficial homestays. So it's just people that invite you. And although they don't speak the language, I mean, English is not really widely spoken in the mountains. They will take you in. So it's an amazing experience. It really is.
I can also I totally can support this, because I was actually hiking back in Ladakh, and I also stayed a couple of times in a homestay before I actually set out on the Sanskar crossing. And it was amazing, even though we could not communicate at all because they didn't speak English and I didn't speak the local language. But just being there and being part of their daily routine, and eating always is a big issue. So eating together, or a big event, but in a positive way, eating together and smiling at each other makes such a difference. And just being there and feeling how welcomed you are, it makes such a big difference, and it adds to the overall experience to being in a place like, well, in my case, Ladakh, or in the case of the Pamir Trail, being in Tajikistan, and learn more about the people and the local culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so sorry to chip in, but
all good.
That's it. It's I think an integral part of the experience, and really to get to know a country is to get to know the people. I mean, of course, rugged nature, there's a lot of it, and you will have it. But specifically, just being among the people and just getting because it's not set up for tourism necessarily. Exactly. It's a real genuine, authentic peek into their lives, and there's nothing fake about it or nothing staged. Or it's like a real experience, and I think that's very refreshing. Compared to places that are getting really busy. So, yeah.
And it's also experiencing a different kind of generosity, because they're also sharing food with you, with knowing that there's not a supermarket around the corner where they can buy more food. And I think also this is something that people should probably have in mind. It's not that they can just go around the corner and buy more food. They share what they have. And you should be very, grateful for what they share.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of encourage people to leave some money, and often it's refused. They don't want to take the money, but it's kind of, you need to insist, because they don't have a lot of financial resources, and sometimes food is scarce as well, but they will still share it. So in some it's tricky if they refuse your money, but it doesn't feel like a business transaction, of course, but it's good to give it just to make sure they can restock. Or so I always encourage people, if you're invited, just leave some money, and usually it's with one of the children or something, so it's gonna be received by the elders. Yeah.
Navigation. I guess there is no markers on the trail, but you are navigating with GPX tracks that you can probably find on your website. Or how is it working? Are there apps yet, or how to navigate when hiking?
Yeah, that's correct. So I am in the process of, there are GPX files that you can download, either the whole trail or just per section. At the moment I'm working on with the Outdoor Active app to do it also per stage. So for every stage you would be able to get a GPX track. But it's of course doing it by section is probably the easiest. But yeah, you can download it. You can put it on your phone or in your GPS device, and then you can just follow that. And most of it is actually also OSM covers quite a lot of the Pamir Trail, and not as an official line, because it's not an official trail in the sense that it's recognized by the Tajik government or anything. But the trails, most of the trails that are on it, they are on OSM as well. So all the OSM based mapping apps, they will have the line of the trail. But yeah, you do need the GPX track just to know if you're on the Pamir Trail or not.
So, and when you're on the trail and when you hike through Tajikistan, which I think is, well, always something very exciting to hike from one end to the other end of a country, what can you see? So it's mountainous, yes, and you already mentioned 23 high passes that hikers have to cross. But what else can you see and experience when hiking the trail?
Well, apart from the encounters with people, it's the higher parts are very glaciated. So I think that's one of the lures. The glaciers still go down quite low as 3,500 meters. So lots of glaciers, lots of really beautiful mountain lakes, especially on section 1 and 8, pristine lakes with no infrastructure around it. If you would put these lakes in the Alps or anywhere where people can get to by car, Lago di Braies, it's like that, but then without anything around it. So it's spectacular scenery. There is some wildlife. I mean, it's quite hard to see wildlife, to be honest. I mean, there are snow leopards that roam around, ibex, Marco Polo sheep. But obviously, it is a bit hard to see those animals because they are quite rare and they are being hunted as well, at least in the past. So, it's not so easy to see them. But it's and I think also the variety of landscape. So you've got glacier, but you also have high altitude desert further south. So it basically looks more like the Tibetan plateau rather than the Himalayas in the southern Himalayas, for example. Or actually, I should say like Ladakh. Ladakh is also southern Himalayas, but it's the variety of landscapes is really interesting. Every section is basically different. Some are greener, some are drier, some have really high towering peaks, and others have like more rounded mountains. And actually meeting shepherds, I think that's also a very interesting part of the trail. So there are a lot of shepherds who take their livestock up the mountains above 4,000 meters. And, you will meet them, and they will invite you in for a cup of tea and a bowl of yogurt and maybe a chunk of bread and have like conversations or, just sitting around trying to have conversations, because obviously they, most of them don't speak English, but it's both culturally and in terms of nature, it's just every day is different for sure.
And are you always above the tree line, or is there also sections where you walk? Sorry, it might be a stupid question, but I really need to start picturing how the mountains in Tajikistan look like. Or is there also sections where you actually walk through forests?
Yeah, you wouldn't do that. It's more woodlands. Like juniper is a tree that you find all over the Tajik mountains. So the tree line is, I think, around 3,000 meters. So anything above, it gets a bit more bare. So it's juniper woodland, very pretty. And if you go further down to the Pamirs, you have a different type of tree. Some kind of birch, I think. I'm not 100% sure. And I think that's really unique for that area. So if you're later in the season, they all turn yellow and red. It's really, great colors. Nice. So there are trees, but it's always, when you go higher up and then you go down, it's you embrace the the fact that there are trees. So then you think, okay, I'm back in sort of the friendly landscape again, less rugged or less challenging.
Yeah, or exposed to everything around you. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So what about water? Is it a problem to have water? So are there long water carries, or is it not a problem at all? Because there's glaciers around, and you mentioned rivers that hikers need to cross.
No, generally it's not a problem at all. There are, I think, two sections where you have to carry the water for maybe for a day. So on section 5, there's some dry areas. You go up a mountain ridge without any water for, I think, for one day. So you need to basically stock up a little bit. And there's another one, the start of section 7, the first stage. You need to bring water because the glacier has dried out. So there's no spring anymore. Especially later in the summer, or those springs will dry up. So you need to bring the water. But for the rest, it's really there's a lot of water, like a lot of rivers, streams, like sources directly, like springs directly from the rock. But yeah, no, water is not a problem at all.
It sounds so good, and it sounds like an amazing trail to hike. But I also want to take the opportunity to have you here as a guest on the podcast to learn more about what it takes to found a trail or create a trail in a country as Tajikistan. So you already mentioned why you chose to create a trail in Tajikistan, because you had this eureka moment where it's like, oh wow, this is like an amazing place to hike, and we should do more about bringing hikers here. So, but let's start with a different question. So, how long did it take from the idea to stitch together shepherds' paths and trails to create the Pamir Trail to actually put it into action?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because when I did my research, I learned that quite a lot of shepherd trails were connected. So for the guidebook, I basically did a number of routes, but some of the routes would intersect, and I thought that was a really, really interesting idea. Then at the time when I lived in Tunisia in 2014, my next door neighbor had a guest. And that guest was Jeff Haag, and that guy happens to be the founder of the Trans-Caucasian Trail, which is a crazy coincidence. And I was instantly interested in how he did it. We went on a hike on one of the mountains in Tajikistan, and so I picked his brain on it. And but also at the time it was really in its infancy. The Trans-Caucasian Trail was not a real thing yet. But we had an amazing chat about it, and that's really when the seed was planted for the Pamir Trail. And then a couple of years later, I went for a climb in Nepal, and that's where I met the founder of the Great Himalaya Trail, Robin Boosted, in a bar, of course, as you do.
Of course,
where great ideas are born.
Yes.
And also with him, I had a really great chat about how he did it, and that really cemented it. Like I think, okay, I think writing a guidebook is one thing, but at some point it would be good to have a trail that's kind of putting the country on the map as a real hiking destination. Because a book is quite hard to find if you're not looking for it. It's especially an obscure destination like Tajikistan. Maybe you happen to see it on the bookshelf, but you won't necessarily come across it. And I think a trail like this, now I'm now talking to you and I'm making people aware of that Tajikistan is amazing and that the Pamir Trail exists. So it gives people a sort of like a handle, like something, okay, this is a trail, and you can do anything around it, right? So yeah, just to give it like sort of a branding, if you will.
Yes.
You've got Everest Base Camp, you've got Annapurna Circuit. These are all basically branded trails. That it's famous, and I think although I doubt that Pamir Trail will be ever as famous as Everest Base Camp, it's still it catches it's catches the mind, and it might stick, and then people at some point look it up again and think, okay, we need to do this. So yeah, it's I forgot what the actual question was, but sorry, but I'm just rambling around.
No, it's super interesting to hear what you were just saying, because this this shows that on the one hand it needs a lot of passion to put something into reality, and when you talk to the right people at the right time or at the right moment in time, then something can develop. And also on the other hand, you're totally right. I totally support this idea that, especially nowadays, I have this feeling that over the last maybe 5, 6, 7 years, hiking, multi-day hiking, or even long-distance hiking through hiking is something that gets more leverage. So a lot of people look more into what can we do. And I totally agree on, it's one thing to have a guidebook about, I don't know, hikes in Tajikistan, but it's a totally different thing if there is a long-distance trail that has a name like Pamir Trail. Though this gets a lot of different attention. It's like the Pacific Crest Trail. That's like the trail of the trails in the US, or the trail of the trails of through hikers. It's totally different to if you would say, oh, I go hiking on the west coast of the US and I kind of like do a couple of multi-day hikes and then I'm going to be hiking for a month or two. It's a totally different thing. So having this brand of a trail in a country attracts way more attention. And my initial question, now I'm coming back to my initial question, how long did it take from the idea to putting it into action? So you were sharing how the idea came to mind, but how long and how challenging was it actually to create the trail? Or was it super easy and you just sat down and you consulted Google Earth and kind of talked to people, to locals, and stitched something together and voila, there's our trail?
Yeah. So okay. Yeah. Now I remember. I started actively working on the Pamir Trail. I basically started creating in 2020 during COVID. So it was essentially a kind of a COVID project. Because time was, I had time, and I thought, okay, this is the moment. And when we could travel again, so for the guidebook, I already had about 40 stages, like almost half of it I could use for the Pamir Trail. So stitching some of those tracks together and maybe leave bits out, but I already had like a rough sketch of the trail through the guidebook that I did. And then it was just building upon that. So the next year, in 2021, we went to section 6, to one of the hardest parts, with a filmmaker as well, Michel Fagouri. And he, we had this route in mind that's actually now the Pamir Trail, but we were too early. It was in, I think, early August. And the first big river was already, we couldn't cross it. Like, it was just not possible. Which was a very sobering, but a reminder that this is not going to be easy.
Right.
But at the same time, there were people. People reached out to me. Oh, I'm going to Tajikistan. I see that you're doing this, so I can help exploring. So we had a lot of people who helped out, who wanted to do a section and see if they could do it, and it's been like that for I think for 4 years. So 2024 we officially finalized it. So let's say it took 4 years in total, but with the help of a lot of fellow hikers and really like hardcore stuff. One of the main guys is Christian Bloyer. He amazing, detail-oriented person. I think he also puts a lot of trails on OSM. So that's what he does. He's very meticulous. And he tried out a lot of hard routes before establishing what route we should do. So the very hard parts were actually done by other people, and I'm very grateful for that. The people just we're just doing it and shared all the information. So I have a family here. I can't go for 4 months anymore to explore the country. So I'm very grateful that a lot of people reached out and helped out with creating the Pamir Trail. Then we had the discussion, is it possible, is it suitable for hikers? And in the end, it's all been done. Every section has been done, every stage has been done. So not necessarily by me, but also by colleague hikers. And I think that's great, because it's really like a trail by hikers for hikers. Nothing you know, yeah. So it's nothing really made up, or just using a mapping application, and just put your point in A and then B, and then okay, that's what it's going to be. Everything has been hiked.
Right.
So, and I thought that was essential,
Yeah.
especially in Tajikistan, to rule out unsafe places, or if it would even be possible or not, because sometimes people put in routes that are impossible on OSM, they just randomly put on a line, and you cannot do it, and that puts people in danger, especially in Tajikistan. It's so yeah, it's but yeah. Long story short, about 4 years, and we still work on it,
Okay.
of course.
And so you have this amazing website, and you're also active in social media in sharing about the trail. So, for example, I mentioned this right at the beginning. I talked to Julian about the Via Transilvanica in Romania. And in Romania, there's a whole NGO who takes care of the trail and who promotes the trail, maintains the trail, and does all the marking and so on and so on. And for example, in Germany, the Nord-Süd Trail, which is the North-South Trail, there is one particular guy, Soul Boy, who created the trail and takes care of the trail, and also it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But is it just you who stands behind the trail, or is there a group of people? Or you mentioned there's a community of hikers. Or is there also something like an NGO? So is it basically, the question basically is it just you who's kind of like pulling the strings in the sense of who's putting the focus on the trail and making the trail better? Or is there an NGO or like a structured group who takes care of the trail? So
yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Well, at the moment, it's primarily me. I'm pulling the strings. I'm putting things forward, and I do have help from people in Tajikistan. So there's a small foundation, Archa Foundation. They help a little bit with the logistics, and I really want this to become more institutionalized. So like sort of an official registration for the trail. But in Tajikistan it's quite hard. It's hard to find support in the country itself. I have a call in an hour with somebody who's working on tourism development in Tajikistan through the Swiss contact, Swiss development organization. So there are small opportunities. We will see where it goes, and I really want that to happen, because we can take the trail further in terms of accessibility, I would say, and at some point I'm really more a pioneering spirit. I'm not really a managing person, so at some point when it's more matured, the trail, then I would love others to kind of take over and say, hey, we're going to take this to the next level. I'm more a startup person. And I love doing it. I love doing this at the moment. We're still developing, and we're still kind of moving things forward. But once we get to a stage where, more management is needed, maybe to improve the trail by trail building, for example, maybe build bridges. I think then it's time for an organization to take over. Also because me as a person, I can't get funding. A foundation, a charity, can receive the funding because that's the official channels. I hope in the next few years we can move the sort of the management of the trail to integrate it into a foundation or a charity that can take care of it, and also can apply for funding. So I hope it happens sooner rather than later.
You mentioned earlier that it's not a governmental supported trail, somewhat, if I remember correctly. But I'm also wondering, what about local authorities? Because suddenly there are 40 hikers this year who are heading out on a trail. So they are mostly international hikers, or they are international hikers. So suddenly there are hikers who hike through Tajikistan on a trail that is, getting a little bit more well known or more known in hiking communities in the English speaking world, or, well, more Western, whatever Western actually is, Western world. What about local authorities? Are they supporting it? Do they see the advantages that such a trail could bring to remote villages or little townships?
In all honesty, I have no idea. So what things get quite political in Tajikistan. That's
Right.
the thing. So my vision was to finish the trail and then reach out and start working with maybe local authorities, or because I don't want politics get in the way of the integrity of the trail. I think it's really
Right.
important that it's done by hikers and not by people who have an interest in the trail going through certain areas.
Oh,
So
yes.
I really wanted to kind of, okay, this is the route of the trail, and after that, let's see what we can get in terms of support. But for now, I'm honestly, I don't know. I'm sure it's on the radar with someone in the local government, or maybe even the national government. But nobody has reached out yet. I did do a talk in the U.S. Embassy last year, also
Okay.
with US aid, and that was very promising. But obviously, US aid collapsed, so that we cannot expect anything from that, unfortunately. But I wish the Ministry of Tourism Tajikistan would just come on board, and of course, I would welcome that with open arms. But for now, we're looking at other opportunities, and I just wait for them to get in touch and see what we can do. So, yeah.
Yeah. So fingers crossed that they will eventually see the advantages and support the trail. But with this, we're touching something that also I think we need to talk about. So Tajikistan is not a country such as, let's say, we go hiking to Norway, or let's go on a hiking trip to Scotland, or come to New Zealand to hike. So Tajikistan is a country in Central Asia that is remote. Not a lot of people know a lot about Tajikistan. So I also took a look at how to get a visa for Germans, because I'm a native German. So there are possibilities for Germans to get a visa. Well, you have to apply for it. There's even a visa waiver for 30 days, but you can apply for longer visitor visas. And obviously, I mean, you mentioned there are 40 hikers on the trail right now, and there are other people who come to Tajikistan for sightseeing and experiencing the country. But also it touches the border to Afghanistan. And I think Afghanistan might be one of these words where people like, oh my God, is this dangerous? So I have to ask the question, Jan, is it dangerous, especially when coming closer to the border of Afghanistan?
Well, actually, not at all. It's become, ironically, it's become more safe now the Taliban is in charge, because they were the ones that caused insecurity. But now they are in charge, which is obviously very unfortunate. But it does mean that it's become a lot safer. In fact, if you are in Tajikistan, you can get a tourist visa on arrival from Tajikistan into Afghanistan. So it illustrates.
Oh,
They
how?
are open to tourism. They are willing to receive foreigners, and that also reflects on the security of the border. I mean, there are border issues, but that has more to do with the opium trade. That said, the Tajik authorities, they have a really tight grip on border control and everything like that. So. It's really like Afghanistan is not a threat at all. I would say. Internally, there are some problems. So I mean, there are some. In the Pamirs, there are issues, political issues. Things do flare up sometimes. So that's the only thing you need to be aware of, and I think that's also why we have like a WhatsApp group, so people know what's going on. So we have the latest news. But in general, I go there almost every year. I've never had a real problem in terms of security. So yes, it's it. I mean, I understand people have that concern. And if you look at the travel advice from governments, it's sometimes quite worrying. But I don't know why they are being so cautious and so conservative in their travel advice, because it's, of course, it's. I mean, I don't see any security issues at all. It's a very welcome country. Of course, things can happen. But things can happen in France as well, and things can happen in anywhere in the world. So it's never risk free, but that's global.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
However, also for women, for female hikers, I myself, I love going out there all by myself. However, I also love going hiking with my partner, who's also a long distance hiker. But there are, fortunately, more and more women who want to go hiking all by themselves, or bring another female friend, or bring their female partner, or, well, basically hiking in Tajikistan as women. Would you say, obviously you cannot speak from your own experience, but from your experience, what you hear from other hikers, and you mentioned two Czech girls or women who hike the Pamir Trail, is this an issue, or is there something that specifically female hikers need to be aware of?
Well, in general, it's not an issue. People are, you have to, first of all, you start with how you move about in the country. So, you have to dress conservatively. It's also common sense to kind of adapt to the local culture and say, okay, I'm not going to hike in skinny shorts or anything. You need to kind of just dress appropriately. Yeah, no, but it's true. I mean, it's you need to respect the dress and everything. The Czech ladies didn't have many problems. Maybe they have one encounter. I think that person was drunk. I mean, that can happen anywhere. But in general, they've had a good experience. Also in terms of traveling as a woman. There's a travel blogger. She's called Nicole Smoot. She's from Alaska, and she did a lot of solo travel in Tajikistan, also including trekking. She's done a lot of stuff, and I think I would advise people to go to her blog and read about it, because she wrote about what it's like to be a solo female traveler in Tajikistan. So Nicole Smoot is her name, Adventures of Nicole, and if people Google that, you can find her blog. She's quite a big following. Like, she's got 75,000 people on Instagram or something. So and you can reach out to her as well, I'm sure. And she's happy to kind of give an in-depth insight in what it's like to travel as a solo woman. So yeah. You're right. It's a bit harder for me to tell. So, but she can tell first-hand experience about what it's like. So, I would definitely advise that.
And coming back to the issue of visa, I was wondering, because I think I read somewhere on these travel advices from governments that there might be areas where you need a specific permit. Is the Pamir Trail, or is there a section on the Pamir Trail where you need a specific permit so that you can actually hike it? Well, not that you can hike it, but you can enter the area or the region where the Pamir Trail goes through?
Yes, there are 2 permits you need if you go to the Pamirs. So for the first 5 sections, you don't need any additional permits. It's permit free. If you enter... there's one region, it's called GBAO, Gorno-Badakhshan Autonomous Oblast, And that's essentially the Pamirs, and that's where you need a GBAO permit. So you can apply for that, excuse me, through the website as well. So you can apply for an e-visa, and the GBAO permit can be obtained through that. It's not always easy. You need some help sometimes from a tour company. And there's also a lake area called Lake Saras, and you need a special permit for that because it's quite a vulnerable area. In 1911, there was a big earthquake and a landslide created this lake, but they're monitoring it. It's one of the biggest potential natural disasters in the world, actually. They're monitoring the dam. It's a natural dam. But if it bursts, it would just drain a complete mountain lake, like a massive mountain lake, into the valleys. So Lake Saras is, that's the only that's the permit you need, and GBAO for the region. I have to say, with the visas, there is a challenge there, which is important to know. If people want to through hike the Pamir Trail, it's 80 stages. But the visa is only a maximum of 60 days. So you will have to, if you want to do the through hike, you will have to kind of exit the country and apply for another e-visa, which has not proved to be a problem. The ladies from Czechia, they have done that. They went to Uzbekistan, successfully applied for another e-visa, and then they went back into Tajikistan and finished the trail. So, but it's important to know, it's kind of, after Section 5, it's really easy to travel back to Dushanbe and onwards to Uzbekistan. And then you can travel back. It will cost you a few days, but it's the only way to complete it, unless you're very fast and you just skip a few stages, you merge a few ones, or you trail run it. But other than that, if you stick to the stages, like the 80 stages, then you need to reapply for an e-visa. So important to know.
Speaking of how much, or speaking of time or how long it takes to hike the trail, 1,300 kilometers, mountainous area. We learned it's like 64,000 or 65,000 meters in elevation gain over the length of the trail. What is a realistic distance that hikers can cover a day?
It really depends on the section. I mean, there are some areas where you walk on the dirt road, because there's no other way to get into the next trail. So then you would walk 40 kilometers. But there are sections that are really tough, and you would not do more than 10 kilometers, especially on that section 6B. It's really tough terrain. So 10 kilometers will take you pretty much the whole day, because there's no trail, really challenging terrain. You need to cross the rivers. Between 10 and 40 kilometers, basically.
That's quite a range. But this also brings me to my next question. What is your advice, or what is your recommendation? What kind of hiker is the type of hiker who could consider tackling the Pamir Trail? I don't think it's a trail for beginners.
No, definitely not. If you want to do the through hike, you need to have done other long distance hiking trails. Not necessarily harder, but I think it's all in the mind as well. You need to be adventurous. You need to be flexible. You need to be comfortable with uncertain situations, and also being able to make the decision. Okay, this is not safe enough, or this does not feel good. I need to go back. So you need to be very flexible and adventurous in mind, and be honest to yourself and realistic. But I think the more experience you have with difficult terrain, the better. So it's good, if you've done, for example, a completely different, like Cape Wrath Trail, you've done that comfortably, you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, it's rugged. You need to navigate.
Yeah.
You need to be able to, kind of deal with unexpected situations, which is in Scotland also the case. if you're not, and you don't have to do the whole trail. You can also say, okay, I start with the first section, which is pretty accessible, and then take it from there. So, but for the through hikers, people who've done the PCT or Appalachian Trail or I mean, it is a next level up, I would say, in terms of technicality and difficulty. Maybe people who have done the Great Himalaya Trail, they will be absolutely fine.
Yeah, and I can also imagine it's challenging when it comes to cultural differences and language barriers and having to deal with uncertainties, because the PCT, for example, the Pacific Crest Trail, it's such a relatively easy trail in regard to language and logistics and how to deal with what comes next, because there's so many people also hiking it. So yeah, you're right. It is next level, and from my perspective, it really sounds like next level hiking. But you also mentioned, I think right at the beginning, there's also the opportunity to go on commercial treks, or you can go with a group. Is this correct?
Yeah, so I would say the most accessible, but at the same time, I think also the most beautiful sections are section 1 and 8. And tour operators already have, the local tour operators already have experience there. So, that makes it easier to offer the strip also commercially. In the future, maybe we are going to develop other sections as well commercially, but this is a known area. We work with local tour operators that I've worked with in the past that operate the trip. We as Pamir Trail promote the trip because we feel that we have a little bit of a position where we can inspire people to go there, and that's why we also want to help the local tour operators that we work with to get more clients to take into their local mountains. So and that's what they are. The tour operators we work with are actually from these areas, so they know it really, really well. And I think some hikers are just more comfortable, just tagging along with a group. Also, traveling with a group can be really fun as well. So therefore, we offer that opportunity and promote these trips for our local partners, really.
And while going with a group with a local guide, this is also I can imagine helping to take a look into local culture, because when you're out there all by yourself as a through hiker, of course you get to know the people and you get to meet people, but having a local guide with you, it's something different, I guess, because this person makes it more accessible to meet people along the way.
Absolutely. For example, one of the camps that we have on Section 8, you basically stay at a shepherd settlement, and of course it's really hard to communicate one-on-one if you don't have anyone with you. But a local guide can translate and you can learn about what they do all summer, and what it's like to live an entire summer above 4,000 meters. So you definitely culturally you can learn much more if you go with a group, and you get a bit of background of what what life is like in the mountains that remote.
Right.
So I would encourage that for sure.
Awesome. Jan, last but not least, where can people find more information about the Pamir Trail?
So obviously our website pamirtrail.org. That's the main platform we use to share information. And it's being updated continuously. So, as I said, at the moment we are integrating Outdoor Active into the website. So we get all the trail beta, it's already there, but it's just a transition from the current format that we have to a more flexible format where we can easily, change a little thing, and then it's less work for us, but also more accurate. We have an Instagram account, Pamir Trail, @Pamir Trail. Same for Facebook, @Pamir Trail. And of course, people can always reach out if they have questions, specific questions to pamirtrail@gmail.com. I always, I'm pretty good with answering quickly. So, people can reach out, and I can tell them all about the beauties of the Pamir Trail and what to expect. So
Awesome. That sounds fantastic. And let's wrap up, Jan. So thank you very much for sharing not just more information about the trail, but also sharing some insight into what it takes to create such a trail in a country like Tajikistan. So thank you very much, and fingers crossed for that the trail gets more well known and that it sees maybe even 45 or 50 hikers next year. But I think 40 hikers already a good beginning, and I'm pretty sure that it has or it gains some more traction in the hiking community worldwide. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my love for the Tajik mountains. And, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Amazing, truly amazing. There are so many interesting aspects of creating a trail in Tajikistan. I have to say that I really obviously loved the conversation and the fact that Jan put together existing trails and paths to create a trail that, with the branding Pamir Trail, seems to get way more attention than just a random network of trails in the country. Especially these days when the long distance hiking community grows and names of long trails are thrown around. Well, I'm extremely curious what the next several years will bring for the trail and in which way it will develop. For sure, it is not a trail for beginners. Only the adventurous should look into tackle these 1,300 kilometers across Tajikistan. But if you're looking for a challenge in amazing scenery, well, you found your trail. Don't look any further. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave a 5-star rating in the podcast app of your choice. Click the follow button if you want to hear more about long distance hiking. Well, mostly in German though. However, from time to time there might be more English speaking episodes with interesting guests. So thanks for listening, take good care, and as always, happy trails. Yours truly, Mareike.